Hey everyone. Today I'm going to be making some tortilla soup. This is a great recipe I've made over the years, and I like the simplicity of it. I like how it's pretty versatile based on the ingredients that you have on hand, and it's really flavorful. And several of my family members like it, so always a good one to come back to. All right, so the base of this is going to be black beans, fire roasted tomatoes. You can use regular diced tomatoes if that's what you have on hand. Some corn. You could use canned corn, frozen corn, fresh corn. Use the kind that is available to you and whatever you like. Medium sweet potato that I'm going to peel and dice. 4 cups of chicken broth. I'm using Better Than Bouillon. It comes in this little jar. It's a paste. You add a teaspoon per cup. And I really like mixing if I need 4 cups in these jars because you don't have to measure and you just fill it up and add 4 teaspoons of the paste and then you have your broth. And I've got some shredded chicken breast, which could be optional. You could make this vegetarian as well. And then I have some spices. I'm using onion powder and garlic powder, but you could also use a fresh diced onion and fresh cloves of garlic that are minced up. We can talk about the differences as I start cooking. And then some chili powder and some cumin. So it sounds like a lot as I walk through it, but as you see it come together, it's really pretty simple. So let's get started. So if you're using a fresh onion, it's 1 small onion diced. You're going to heat up a tablespoon of olive oil in your pan. If I were making this without being on TV, I would not use this pan. I would use a soup pan, right? But this gives you a better view, so I'm going to use my saute pan, which it can work as well. But again, more of a stock pot will be better for your soup. So a tablespoon of olive oil in there. Once it's hot, get your onion in and just cook that for about 4 to 5 minutes until it starts softening up. And then we'll kind of jump in for the rest of the directions as we get going. So I'm going to start by getting my potato prepped. It's nice to have everything kind of done and ready to go in before you get your heat going so that just the timing works and you're not stressed out and then things aren't burning in the pan because you don't have the other stuff ready. So do your prep ahead. It can be really helpful. All right, so peel and dice my sweet potato. You could make this without sweet potato. You can just do the bean and the corn and the chicken. I just like the sweetness the sweet potato adds. I think it's just a nice sweetness, flavor, and texture in there. Okay. Doing this over the compost would probably have saved me a step. Keep that in mind when you do it. And sweet potatoes really come in a variety of sizes. If you have a huge one, you might not need it all. Again, I'm going to bridge cut this down. Sweet potatoes can be a little tricky. Knives like to get kind of stuck in them. If your knife isn't very sharp, it might not go through all that well. So always look for a flat side when you're dicing so that they're not rolling around and you can dice them up safely. All right, so if you're cooking along with this, your onion is starting to tenderize. You're getting some nice aromas coming out of it. And then once your onion is nice and soft, you can add your garlic in. We want to be cautious with adding garlic too early as it can burn if it's in that hot pan for too long. But once you're getting close to the onion being ready, you can get your garlic in there. And if you're using garlic powder, the volumes that you need will be in the description of the recipe as well. I like to use both. I like to use fresh garlic and garlic powder, really just based on the time that I have that day and what I have available. So they're pretty interchangeable. Okay, I think I'm ready to heat our pan up here. So my tablespoon of oil, we'll let that get hot. And then to get our spices and really get the flavors out of them, we want to get them on some heat. And so if I put all the broth in and put the spices in, they just don't kind of like open themselves up quite as much as if we can heat them up here. So I'm going to get my sweet potatoes, my corn, my black beans in, heat them a little bit, and then put the spices on them and cook them a little bit just to start kind of blooming and opening up those spices. While my oil's heating, I'll get my black beans ready. So all of this liquid that your beans are in, we kind of always recommend draining it and rinsing it. One, it's salty, so if you're watching your salt, that can help. But also, it can make it a little harder to digest the beans if you consume that liquid. So by rinsing them, it can make digestion a little bit easier. Black beans like to stick in the bottom of the can, so just rinse them out of there. And then if you have a sprayer, this works really well to just get them all sprayed off. If not, just do your best. All right, so I'm gonna get my sweet potatoes in here. This potato made about 2 cups of sweet potatoes. And again, the total volumes here, you have a little wiggle room if your onion's a little smaller or bigger, if your potato is, it's gonna work out okay. So I'm gonna get my black beans in as well. And the corn. The recipe calls for a cup of corn. You know, a can is a little more than a cup. I'll stick with a cup, we'll see how it is. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of get these moving around, get the oil spread around them. So if you had your onion and your garlic in here already, you're just gonna add these other veggies in. We're not really looking to actually like cook these a whole lot at this point. We're really just looking to start heating them up and give the spices an opportunity to get some heat as well. All right, so let's talk about spices. Now, since I haven't added my onion and garlic, I'm gonna add that now. I'm gonna do a half a teaspoon of each. If you love garlic, feel free to increase. My body doesn't love garlic that much, and so I go on the lesser side. Okay. But onion powder is a nice option if you have people in your household who don't like the texture or the taste of fresh onion in a recipe. Onion powder can be a nice option. And again, I'm going a little light on the garlic just based on personal preference. But if you love it, it will taste delicious in here. All right, and our other spices are going to be chili powder and cumin. I've noticed that specific brands of chili powder, some can be spicy and some are pretty mild. So you might just taste yours, or you might already be familiar with it, just in case you have people in your household who are sensitive to spiciness. This one is fairly mild that I have here, but I have had some spicy ones in the past. All right, so add 1.5 teaspoons of chili powder. And then 1 teaspoon of cumin. Uh-oh. This is common where your teaspoon won't fit. Just go down a size and then use 2 of them. I would definitely avoid trying to pour your spices into a measuring spoon. I've tried it. It doesn't work. They come flying out. You make a mess. You don't get the right measurement. So find the right spoon and then, yes, just dip in as many times as you need it. All right, this is already smelling amazing. So we've got our black beans, our corn, our sweet potato. We've got our chili powder, cumin, onion, and garlic. If you're someone who doesn't like beans or beans don't agree with you, I may have mentioned earlier, but you can leave them out, just like you can leave the sweet potato out if that's not something you like. Find the caps here, if that's not something you like. But again, you can leave the beans out and just do the sweet potato, the corn, and the chicken. That's going to be delicious as well. Really customize this to your liking and your taste. All right, so my spices are now kind of blooming and opening up, and I'm really getting those nice aromas. It's going to really help bring out the flavor as the dish comes together. Okay, so can of fire roasted tomatoes. I do like the fire roasted. I like that additional flavor that they bring. If you have regular dice, that's fine. If you have regular dice, but you really like that kind of smokiness, you could add a little bit of smoked paprika, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon to the dish, and that'll give you that flavor as well. If you're someone who watches your sodium closely or needs to, feel free to look for a no salt added version of your tomatoes. It's a nice way to kind of limit how much salt's coming in from products, and then you can salt at the end really based on taste. You'll have a little more control over it. Same thing with the broth. You could use a lower sodium version. Okay, we are getting close here. All right, so our last 2 ingredients are going to be our 4 cups of broth. You could use vegetable, you could use chicken broth. And then I have 2 cups of shredded chicken breast. I bought a cooked rotisserie chicken for this and just cut a chicken breast off and shredded it. It was very easy. A nice option. If you have leftover chicken, that can work as well. If you want to keep it vegetarian, just leave the chicken out. You're still getting some good protein from the beans in here. All right, so in goes 4 cups of broth and our 2 cups of chicken. All right, so give this a stir to combine everything. And then you're going to bring it up to a boil, but then reduce fairly quickly to a simmer. We don't want all the liquid boiling off. So bring it to a simmer, and we're going to simmer for about 15 minutes. We need to make sure those sweet potatoes are nice and tender, and that's going to really meld all those flavors together. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. You really don't need to stir it. I would just kind of monitor it so it's not boiling too heavily. If you feel like you're concerned about losing too much liquid, you can lightly put a cover on, which means to put a cover on but leave a crack so that some of that steam can get out. Because some of it, coming out is perfectly fine. But sometimes if it's really boiling and you lose it all, it will condense down more than you like. All right, so 15 minutes on this, and I'll be back. All right, so my soup has been simmering for 15 minutes, and I just tested a sweet potato, and it was nice and tender. And so it is technically done. If you wanted to simmer this for another, be careful when you take this, take this top off. Sometimes you're gonna get a lot of moisture here, and it can be a little drippy, so just be cautious. If you wanted to continue simmering this just to blend flavors for another, getting a little bubbly here, for another 5 minutes or so, feel free. It's going to be great. The only thing that time will do really is decrease your liquid here. So you'll notice already, I'm actually going to turn this off now, that some of my liquid has decreased. And so it's still quite, I would still call it a soup. We're on the verge of stew a little bit here, but I think it still looks great. If you wanted to just add a little more water or broth, 1/2 cup to a cup here, that's going to be perfectly fine. So add it in now and kind of get it blended in. Okay, this looks delicious. So your soup could be done as is. You definitely want to give it a taste, but we can also do a little doctoring up to add some extra flavors as well. Salt and pepper for flavoring. I know I want some pepper in here. I enjoy the flavor of it, so I'm going to add that now. Salt, I would definitely encourage you to taste it. Your broth, depending on the broth you use, some of them are quite salty and some of them need a little extra salt. And so give it a taste and see how the salt is for you before you add more. And then let's do the lime. If you have a lime on hand, squeezing in 1/2 a lime is going to be delicious. It'll just give it this nice, this is one of those really hard limes that doesn't have a whole lot that comes out of it. I might need to use the whole thing. Squeezing some lime in here just really balances the soup really nicely. Oh. I've heard that if you feel like your lime is quite hard, kind of rolling it around can help. I did that. Maybe I would have had less juice if I didn't. All right, that'll be good. So 1/2 a lime in there. And then I'm going to put this in a dish to let it cool a little bit and then give it a taste to see where we're at flavor-wise. I really actually just need to try the broth. So a nice part of tortilla soup, which again is optional if you have the time and the ingredients, which is only 2 ingredients, is to make some crispy tortillas to go with it. So this is just I guess this would be 10 inches maybe, flour tortilla. You can use corn tortillas. I actually like this a little more with corn tortilla, but I just don't have any on hand. So we're using flour today. It works with both. And I'm just cutting this into kind of 4 strips so that I can cut it in little pieces. You can use little tortillas, you can use big ones. It really doesn't matter because we're just looking to make little strips. If you don't have tortillas on hands, you could also, like if you have some tortilla chips, those would be good. If you even some like crushed up taco shells might be nice on the top of this. It's really just to give it that, again, it is tortilla soup, but to give it also that kind of crunch in there as well is nice. Okay. So tortillas and just a little bit of oil. You could use cooking spray if you use it. I'm just gonna do a little drizzle of oil. And again, this is gonna help them kind of crisp up when they go in the pan. So I do like to mix the oil in here. I find that it covers them nicely if we kind of mix it this way. And then I'm going to use the same pan I have here, but it's obviously not ready. And so once my pan is available, I'll just heat it up over medium heat and pop these in. They don't take long and you want to watch them closely because they will burn quickly. So medium heat and just keep them kind of moving around with a spatula every minute or two. And probably in 5 minutes, they're going to be nice and crispy. And then you can take them out and just kind of top your soup with them. So I'll show them in a picture so you can see what that looks like. Okay, let's give a taste to this broth and see where our flavors are at. It smells delicious. I can smell the lime. It might be on my hands, but I think it's in the soup. It's delicious. So it's not spicy. Just keep that in mind if you're serving people who are sensitive to spice or you have kids. It's not spicy. It reminds me more of like taco seasoning or a mild chili. It just has those nice flavors. If you want yours spicy, I just recommend some hot sauce, Tabasco, whatever hot sauce you like, kind of as you serve it would be a nice way to add some spice for you. The flavors are delicious. Nothing is overpowering. It feels really nice and balanced. So if I were serving this, I would use a bigger bowl, but this is what I'm serving it in right now. I would make my crispy tortillas. I would sprinkle some of those on the top. Sometimes I even like to put those in the bowl first and then put the soup on them, kind of mix it in there. And then I also like a little dollop of some plain Greek yogurt or light sour cream. You know, they work pretty similar to one another in terms of taste and texture. And so if you're someone just kind of working on either health, protein intake, this can be just a nice alternative. So a little dollop of plain Greek yogurt or light sour cream on there. And then if you like cilantro, some fresh cilantro on here would be delicious. If you don't like cilantro like myself, it would not be delicious. So I'm gonna leave that off. But this soup on its own with that creamy Greek yogurt, the crispy tortilla chips is going to be delicious. This soup will stay nice and fresh in your fridge. Again, about 4 days. I use 4 days with most leftovers. It's just an easy one to remember. And then it will also freeze well. Potatoes don't always freeze the best, but I find sweet potatoes do a little bit better, and especially when they're in a soup like this, I think they would be okay. I would recommend freezing it in single serving dishes so that when you want to take it out, you can just take out one serving at a time. I find when I put big containers of things in the freezer, they sometimes don't come out because they're not as easy to take out and just take a single serving. So I would recommend that tip. All right, well, I hope you give this a try. It's a delicious soup. I think it's fairly easy, and I think it's a really nice balance of flavors. Nothing is overpowering, but if you like Mexican food, I think you'll really love it.